2025 is massive. We haven't seen a year like this in a very long time, when big players shift gears and change signs. But really what they're doing is they're giving us a little bit of a taste. You see, in 2026, we as a collective are going to step into a brand new world, the kind of change we haven't seen in a long time. All the outer planets in 2026 are going to comfortably move into either fire or air for the next years to come. It has been a long time since we saw so many big planets change signs in such a short period of time. But not only that, they are going to, in 2026, set up a larger configuration called a near Star of David configuration. And that is going to launch us into a very different world. The world that we started the 2020s with will be a very different world that we end the 2020s with. And 2026 really allows that shift to occur. But in 2025, it's like we get mighty close. It's like almost, but just not there. Some of these connections happen like almost. They're so close. They get in distance of a little bit of a kiss, and then they start to step back. They start to separate. And so this really is just a little bit of an inkling of what we are about to immerse ourselves to. It's like the universe preparing us for incredible change up ahead. From March 30 to October 22nd, Neptune will dip into the sign of Aries, and Saturn is going to join Neptune there as well from May 25th to August 31st. And these two planets are going to get mighty close, but they won't actually meet with precision until just before Valentine's Day of 2026. Now, these two planets are moving out of Pisces, which is a very dreamy energy. And it's an energy that has to do with our connection to everyone and everything. It's hyper compassionate, but also self-sacrificing as well. And this has been part of helping us to awaken to an understanding of what healthy compassion just might be for us. And it's also been a part of helping us to break through certain illusions, but also give way too much weight to certain other things that ultimately are illusionary. Well, when both of these planets move into Aries, it is like in a snap we wake up. It is the baby taking its first breath that the sign of Aries represents, and we are literally shaken awake with these big energies. The very dreamy nature of Neptune gets turned on its head. And with Saturn, the very starkness, the ownership of one's own happiness, well, we're able to become that much more in ownership of it. We take responsibility, but we might become a little bit of a law unto ourselves. And where it is that we are being way overboard with spiritualizing the self, the will, the adrenaline, well, we might see examples of people being carried away, going way too far with this. We've also got Uranus moving into the sign of Gemini, just dipping in from July 7 to November 7. And it is over this period of time that we're going to get a taste of Uranus moving mighty close to an exact trine with Pluto, but not quite getting there until the middle of 2026. Now, having said that, this is Uranus, mind, inspiration. It has to do with new thought, new ideas, and an evolution of ourselves and our understanding of what healthy equality looks like. Uranus is the planet of breakthroughs and of revolution, yes, but it's also a planet that represents human rights. Now, all of these will be topics of conversation in different ways than they have before. Now, as a collective, we might notice huge leaps forward in technological advancements in particular, and we're likely to see how certain technologies that right now seem so brand new become ubiquitous very soon over the course of the coming years. We're going to understand this just a little bit, get a little bit of a taste of this, and what that might look like for our world in a larger sense this year. Mars retrograde season continues, moving back and forth between the sign of Cancer and Leo. These two energies lit up. Now, for the most part, a week into this year, with Mars moving into Cancer, that is when we see how lovely Mars retrograde season can actually be, as Mars reaches out in harmony or supreme harmony with big power players, including Neptune, Saturn, and Uranus, bringing that much more inspiration, positive change, and stability into an energy that invites us to empower ourselves that much more fully. We're also going to have in April the last exact opposition of Mars and Pluto, which will be the third and final tense moment as part of this larger transit. By then, we're going to have Mars back in the sign of Leo, and this is going to invite us to look at ego versus healthy ego. Look at what it means to value ourselves versus thinking that we need to be better than others. This is a sacred lesson that a lot of us are going through, that you are special and all of us are special, and therefore no one is special, and that really is okay. We might feel inner tension and frustration, but there's also an energy of breakthrough here, of ultimate empowerment, of trusting our heart and letting that lead the way. In late January, Venus enters shadow, and we'll be moving back and forth between the signs of Pisces and Aries. What an interesting contrast, but also in a way helping us to see with love the journey that Saturn and Neptune have undertaken, and also what is yet to come. Wherever Venus goes, she does bring blessings, and she does invite us to understand from a heart level, which is part of the work we are set to do. Now, while Venus is moving through the sign of Pisces as part of this larger transit, well, she is going to meet Saturn and Neptune multiple times, a total of 3 times each. However, the last time that she meets Neptune is going to be when she's wrapping up loose ends at the very beginning of May, just before she leaves shadow in the middle of May. Now, Venus retrograde season is notorious for bringing people in our past back into our path. Now, sometimes it's us. We do it. We get in our own way. We call up people who, we tell ourselves, no, no, no. And then it's like, yes, 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 Venus is retrograde. They're more likely to come back or whatever. Yeah, be careful with that, because all is not as it seems with Venus retrograde, and especially this type of Venus retrograde with so much Piscean energy and Aries energy as well, which is so focused on the self, so focused on one's own needs, whereas Venus in Pisces is more focused on the dream and the illusion and the fantasy. However, we're not going to be able to live in that space because of ongoing conjunctions to Saturn. Just when we get comfortable in what could be and the beautiful hope and the wish, we are shaken awake in ways that feel downright uncomfortable. For all that, though, Venus retrograde does invite us to ask ourselves, do I love it? Person, place, thing, or situation. Where there's love there, it's going to amplify that much more. It'll be evident to us through the experiences we have during Venus retrograde season. But if love is not to be there, well, it might be hard, but we have the experiences we need so that once Venus goes direct, we're able to accept it and make choices based on the truth that we now know. We want love that's real, that's there, and that's honoring of us and the love that we bring. And if all of that wasn't enough, we've got 4 eclipses, 2 eclipses in the sign of Virgo, 1 in Pisces and 1 in Aries as well. Now, those 2 in Virgo are incredibly interesting because they are both exactly opposite Saturn. And so even with lovely aspects playing out in supreme harmony with Uranus, which suggests surprises that we love, that bring changes to an area of life out of nowhere, there's Saturn opposition. And that suggests that there are things there that leave something to be desired, where we feel restricted in some way, and we're aware of the limitations of whatever newness or opportunities or changes might be afoot. The last eclipse of the year in Virgo, taking place in September, happens at 29 degrees. That is an anaretic degree. It is the very end of the sign of Virgo. There's going to be a lot of intensity in the air, but that Saturn opposition is going to make it feel that much more frustrating at that time. And yet it is a solar eclipse. With the ending of the last degree of the sign will also come a bold new beginning. The solar eclipse in Aries at the end of March is speaking in harmony with Jupiter and with Pluto. I love this energy. As far as eclipses go, this is incredibly empowering. It shows us something about how it is that new opportunities can come seemingly out of nowhere. They may have a surprise factor to them, but ultimately they energize us towards action. And through focus and belief, we're able to make the most of those opportunities now. Early September brings with it a lunar eclipse in the sign of Pisces. Now, this eclipse will be hand in hand with Mercury, speaking in harmony with Jupiter. So it's filled with quick moves, synchronistic moments, but ultimately our faith bringing about positive opportunities at this time as well. Now, Jupiter, for that matter, is going to change signs in June. And this is rather fascinating because normally when the sun meets Jupiter in the sky, astrologers like to call that the luckiest day of the year. However, this year is going to be a little bit different. And that is, as we get to the end of June and the sun and Jupiter meet, both of these planets are going to reach out in a square, a configuration of tension with Saturn and Neptune. And that negates some of this sense of the luckiest day, but it does make it an incredibly consequential time. This may feel downright frustrating. We have hope, we have faith. There are things that we want to manifest and we can see it in a big and bold way. And yet there are certain realities, there are certain illusions that we may need to break free from so that we can actually have a plan and see it through to fruition. There is no magic pill, but there is a magic process. Are we going to embrace the process itself to get us to that great luck we're hoping for? Well, that'll be the question that a lot of us are asking ourselves, just as Jupiter is in the early days of moving into the sign of Cancer. All that and so much more is what I cover in the year ahead special horoscope over on my website, nadiyashah.com, available for instant download. And you can watch it right now in the superstar space as well over at thefutureismagical.com. And if you want to see an overview of what these big energies mean for the collective, check out my conversation with Michael Barwick on my YouTube channel now. Now, what these big energies mean for you and your sign, well, it depends on your sun, moon, and rising sign. Take all three into consideration and then synthesize the information to make it relevant for you. And now I'm going to talk about the one single thing that your sign needs to be mindful of. The most important thing for your sign of all these things I mentioned, what's going to affect you most, that's what we're going to look at right now. But I go through all of these things I touched on for each and every sign in those very extended videos that I have up at my website, nadiyashah.com, available for instant download now. Aries, if anyone is going to have a consequential year, if anybody is going to feel like everything turned on its head, everything changed, I think it's the Aries out there. You've got Saturn and Neptune both moving into your sign. You get a little bit of a taste of this energy. Saturn is about taking ownership for your happiness and understanding when you do that, that is the path to self-respect and keeping promises to yourself. It's not dependent on anyone else or anything. Let the world be the world, but you focus on you and what it is that brings you a sense of peace. And if that means contributing to the world, you go ahead and you do that. But in the process, make sure you stay strong and you stay solid on your end. Neptune is going to give you faith and compassion and help you to feel that much more sensitive and artistic to the world around you. But then you add an eclipse that's set to take place in your sign in the early part of the spring. This is going to be a brand new identity that opens up for you really quickly. And if that wasn't enough, we are going to have a Venus retrograde that's going to spend part of the time in your sign and part of the time in the sign just before yours. This is all about love. Loving yourself is a part of it. But yes, do I love this person, place, thing, or situation? You, in the first part of the year, are about to find some very honest answers. And in so doing, it changes things for you. It really is a game changer. Because where there is not love, it just isn't going to last past the middle of the year going forward from here. Taurus, Uranus leaving your sign. I think that you've probably gotten used to operating at a higher frequency than everybody else since 2018 when Uranus first stepped into your sign. Now you're going to get a little bit of a respite. And so as Uranus leaves, I think the first thing you're going to notice is a shift in your own energy that brings a sense of calm and a greater sense of ease to you, where you're able to then restore, reawaken your more patient and diligent self. However, Uranus is going to move into a financial part of your sky, having to do with money you earn, money you spend, self-love and self-esteem. And over the course of the coming years, it's about guiding your finances to align them with a higher calling, a calling that has to do with some truth about you without compromise, and making money in a way that feels a lot more independent. And you might find some real wild gains made at unexpected moments. This and an awareness around what healthy self-love looks like for you, an awareness around how it is that really opportunity can just show up for you in a flash and change everything for you, just might be one of the more important vibrations you start to get a sense of now. Gemini, Uranus is entering your sign from July 7 to November 7. This is huge. This is a little bit of a taste. Overall, a transit of Uranus lasts about 7 years, and it is going to be in the middle of next year that Uranus will move in for a nice long stay. And this is going to be a time of your life that stands out for a very long time to come, if not the rest of your life, because this is you getting a wake up and a shake up. It's you releasing anything superficial, getting to some essential truth about you in moments that feel instantaneous, that feel as if out of nowhere a flash of lightning came in and changed just about everything, including who you know yourself to be, what matters to you most, and what matters to you first. Wherever it is that you've gotten caught up in a direction or in people, places, things, situations that just are not a part of what it is that you are meant to do, the soul is meant to do, what it is to be uniquely you and to live in alignment with who you've been created to be, not just reliving patterns that you've been conditioned to have. Well, that is going to be part of what feels like that much more, that it shakes you wide awake. Your life is about to become more your own than ever before. And this in turn gives you so much power, so much agency, such a bright light that very likely will be recognized not only by yourself, but by others as well. Now, whether this shows up in terms of brilliance, in terms of new ideas, in terms of you not realizing just how smart you are and you're going to decide to honor that part of you, or it shows up in terms of your life going through major changes. You realize where you've been betraying yourself. Now, this might also mean fame, but in our day and age right now, fame lasts about 5 seconds. Well, you just might get your 5 seconds or your 15 seconds or your 15 minutes, because that's how quickly it is that Uranus operates. It takes whatever it is that you're doing and it can take it to the masses very quickly. And it's up to you to decide to make sure that whatever is expressed, it represents some truth about you, so that you can see it as a crowning moment and yet not overly identify with it. What matters is who you are. Being true to that is what really will have you standing out. Cancer, the most important aspect for you in this new year is going to be Mars retrograding back into your sign a week into the brand new year, and will be in your sign right into April. Now, this is actually the sweet spot of the larger Mars retrograde season that started way back in October of 2024, when Mars first went to shadow in your sign. Well, now here we are, and as Mars is moving through your sign, is going to repeat wonderful, encouraging alignments of supreme harmony with Neptune, in harmony with Uranus, but also is going to hang tight a supremely harmonious alignment with Saturn through much of February and into March as well, as Mars slows down to stand still and go direct. That is going to be such an important moment for you, one that'll likely stand out for a very long time to come, because this is where you get honest with yourself about your power. You get honest with yourself about what you really want, who you really are, what you really want to do. And where is it that you've accepted way less than you deserve? What is it that's worth fighting for in your life? And where is it that you've been wasting energy fighting in a particular direction that just is not your fight to fight anymore? That isn't where you want to spend your energy? Your answers are going to be uniquely your own, but this is an awareness and an awakening of your power and nothing less than that. This is the gift of this time. And once you get a taste of your own power, it is an adrenaline rush. It is such a high that it becomes something you want to cultivate. And that is a relationship that you really can cultivate for the rest of your life. That journey starts now. Now, if all that wasn't enough, Jupiter is going to enter your sign also. At the tail end, just as you're done the Mars retrograde season, here comes Jupiter. Now, it does start off a little challenging with the Sun meeting Jupiter at the end of June in your sign, squaring Neptune and Saturn. There are some difficult truths there that you may need to look at, and perhaps even related to your understanding of what a higher, more loving vision for your life might be and how that might be different than what it is that you had conceptualized. Or it could be that there's just more work to do. Your answers are going to be uniquely your own. But this is the tough spot right out of the gate. And then things get a lot easier. As Jupiter moves forward, we've got lots of sweet moments that take you right into the middle of next year as well. Jupiter loves being in your sign and is going to magnify a sense of faith and blessings for you, not just for this year, but stepping into next year as well. Leo, Mars moving in and out of your sign just might be the most important thing of 2025 for you. But it's not just about that, but how it is that this Mars retrograde season is actually setting you up for a huge 2026 ahead. It is going to be in the middle of 2026 that Jupiter is going to enter your sign, and in so doing is going to set up one of the more important pieces of a larger and rare configuration of supreme harmony, a near Star of David configuration that's going to play out in the middle of 2026. You and Jupiter in your sign is going to play a key role in the brightest blessings that you have yet to receive. But this year, it is about being honest with yourself, clearing space, owning your power, looking at your own resistance, looking at some deep-seated anger, and deciding who you want to be. What is authentic power to you, and where are you squandering your power, thinking that a show of power is what it's really about? This honesty won't always be comfortable, but it will be necessary. Now, the moments of discomfort, that is going to come when we get Mars in your sign opposite Pluto. The first opposition happens on the 3rd of January, a huge day. And then the second opposition happens on the 26th of April, just as Mars re-enters your sign. Now, the Mars retrograde season will be over at the beginning of May, but it is going to be Mars that stays in your sign right to the middle of June. And that'll be ample opportunity for you to practice and magnify the sacred learning that you've been through over the course of the retrograde season, all ultimately as part of that divine preparation to understand how it is that you are going to embrace this upcoming hugely significant transit of Jupiter entering your sign in 2026. Virgo, the most important aspects for you are going to be the fact that the South Node moves into your sign and that we have 2 eclipses taking place in your sign as well. A lunar eclipse in early March and a solar eclipse in late September. The first eclipse of the year and the last eclipse of the year is happening in your sign. Both eclipses are speaking in supreme harmony with Uranus. There is a delightful surprise a minute. You are lit up. Things are moving really fast and bringing great delight and surprise and elation. Enjoy it fully. However, what we also have taking place is tight oppositions to Saturn and oppositions to Neptune as well, which tells me that along with this sense of things changing very quickly, there's also an awareness around the limits of your own power and that things can't necessarily be as ideal as you might like or expect. There are factors there that you may wish were different. And in some cases, you might be evaluating new opportunities that come up and asking yourself whether or not it's worth it. They might come with more supervision, more responsibility, without necessarily feeling like the responsibility is balanced out with what it is that you get. Now, your decisions, your answers are going to be uniquely your own. And yet, whatever you decide, know that this time, it's like the final answers for you, they're already written. That's what happens with eclipses. Now, when we have an eclipse in your sign, it means that your identity itself is seen differently. And it is not uncommon for people to be plucked off one path and brought onto a whole other path. And it is that path that you were always meant to be on, but maybe went astray. Dramatic changes become possible here to just about any area of life, whether it's changing work, changing relationships, changing jobs, and your understanding of who it is that you are and how that shows up in all of your moments. Well, those words you use to say who you are, those words might change. And that's what is required sometimes. When you see yourself differently and you know yourself differently, it doesn't take years in the making. It can be an instant. That often can be enough to put you on a whole other path. But make sure, especially with that eclipse happening in late September, that you are being very kind and gentle to yourself. That is a 29-degree eclipse. There's a lot of very intense energy in the air, frustrating energy as well. But ultimately, if you can embrace with love whatever is coming forward for you, you will be held by the universe in great love and you will be made better for it. Libra, 2025 is huge in your understanding of partnerships of all kinds. Now, partnerships are a really big deal to the Libras out there. They know themselves in relation to another. And you have got two big planets moving into your opposite sign, Saturn and Neptune, plus you have got a Venus retrograde season taking place, partly involving your opposite sign as well. Now, as part of that Venus retrograde season in the first months of the year, there is a difference between how you are perceiving a person, what you're projecting onto them, and what they're actually showing you in the details, in those small moments. And that difference might actually represent a jolt, especially where it is that you find yourself investing a whole lot in an illusion. That is going to be something that you have to be mindful of. And this really is the very beginning of that. And that is because Neptune is all about illusions and projection. And just when you think you have found your soulmate, the great love of your life, you will have to be reminded with a thud that this is a human being and that relationships and partnerships of all kinds, work and personal, require work. Where it is that you are already in a healthy relationship, well, the work will be undertaken with an open heart and those relationships can grow that much stronger. But if you are not in the right relationship for you, there's not a whole lot you can do to keep things going. With Saturn included moving into your opposite sign, even though it's just for a taste right now, that is going to get you really honest. Wherever Saturn goes, it asks you, can I do this for the rest of my life? That's the guiding question with Saturn. Can this go on for the rest of this incarnation or not? And if the answer is no, well, this is where you start to take practical steps to figure out what going another way might be for you. Now add to this an eclipse in your opposite sign. Add to this two eclipses in the sign before yours, a part of the sky that has to do with karmic closures, but also karmic blessings as well. And you can see that something's got to give, something's got to change. That includes in your understanding of whom you want to be with. This can bring with it very different partners than you've ever been with before. And that just might be part of your truth. Truth in love is going to matter to you. This is going to be a full embrace and understanding of what it is that you most desire to move towards next. Your answers might surprise you, but when you're on the right track, it does have a certain flow with it. Watch what happens at the eclipse in the first days of spring of 2025. That's where, out of nowhere, some key karmic meeting takes place, and it ends up being a game changer. It might be in love, yes, but it might also be in terms of your professional life as well, where you come to see how much better off you are by joining forces with another. Scorpio, the most important moments for you of 2025 are going to involve Mars opposite Pluto. This is your ancient ruling planet Mars and your modern ruling planet Pluto. Pluto is now comfortably at the foundation of your chart for a nice long stay of 20 years. And it is Mars right now moving through the top of your sky. And although as part of the Mars retrograde season, Mars is moving in and out of here, the oppositions of 2025 take place activating these two areas, the most private and the most public. These are considered especially sensitive areas of the chart. They have a way of speaking to just about every area of life going forward from there. And this is your understanding of your roots and who you used to be and whom it is that you're becoming, who it is that you want to be, all of it reconciling itself with each other. This doesn't necessarily have to be a fight. You can take the best of who you were before and use it as part of understanding the destiny and legacy that you are now aligning with. You can take whatever it was that you thought was so worthy of achieving and understand how whatever efforts you took in pursuit stay a part of you. They inform things within you that you like about yourself and that you can continue to evolve in that direction. But evolution does mean for you interpreting the past differently in a more empowered way, and maybe even dealing with some of the hurts of the past so that they don't speak to your present or say anything about your future anymore. But it is ultimately this very tension that is especially strong right around the 3rd of January and the 26th of April. These are the big days for the Scorpios out there. There's a lot of tension and frustration for a lot of us out there in the air, but that's going to feel especially on the surface for you. Whether this is showing up with bosses and people in positions of authority, very possible. Whether this is showing up with family dynamics, pushing your buttons, very possible as well. In some way, you are having to reconcile. And that reconciliation means making peace with what you want, where you're going, embracing it fully and bravely, even when it's hard to claim it, to state it, to let it be known, but also to know that you have no power over the past, to reconcile and make peace with what already has been, to know that you don't need to abandon it completely to prove that you're someone different now, but you can take some of the best and bring it forward and realize that whatever was before, you're just not that anymore. And it's okay to accept that. It's being true to yourself by saying that you no longer are who you were. This is a defining moment, and I don't say that lightly. This is rare energy. Now, even though for the coming years, anytime Mars stands across Pluto for the next 20 years, as Mars stands across Pluto about once every year and a half to 2 years or so, well, it is going to be in these areas of the chart, but there's nothing like this year, like right now, because this is an ongoing dance. This is part of a rare retrograde season. And it's awakening these key areas of you and your life now. In addition, I'm going to add this layer. Saturn and Neptune both are going to leave fellow water sign Pisces just for a little bit in the middle of this year, more permanently next year. And this heart-oriented part of the sky has to do with what you want in your heart of hearts in every area of life. And it also has to do with romance and flirtation. When these big planets leave here, it's like finally, after years, you just might see these matters differently in some way. What you thought was true love, what felt like bliss, what had you swept up in the moment, swept up off your feet, it's like that stuff just isn't going to work for you anymore. You want love in the nitty gritty. You want inspiration and something ideal that shows up in the details, in the small moments as you move through your day. That's not just about romantic love. That's also about self-love as well. And learning to take small moments as you move through your day and see them as acts of self-love itself. are a powerful way that you start to build a whole new way of moving through your days, of moving through your life, and your existence itself goes through a positive transformation. Sagittarius, the most important aspect for you of 2025 is likely going to be the move of Jupiter. Now, for the first half of the year, Jupiter is moving through your opposite sign. This is bringing not just a focus on partnership and the ability to attract one-on-one alliances that are beneficial to you. Yes, that is there. And that is valuable to you without a doubt. But Jupiter is your ruling planet. And wherever Jupiter goes, it's like that area becomes important to you. It's where you find yourself as well. But consider that when Jupiter is in your opposite sign, it's like opposite you. And Jupiter represents something that feels more ideal, more hopeful, more optimistic. And whatever that vision looks like for you in any area of life might feel further to you at this time, and yet you can see a pathway of how it might just find its way to you. There's more work to be done to move towards a more ideal future, but it absolutely can happen. It is your faith that has carried you through many times over. Just because it feels like some dream, some hope, some wish, some ideal is far, doesn't mean it's impossible. Far from it. Trust the process that gets you there. It is halfway through the year that we have Jupiter, your ruling planet, changing signs and moving into a part of the sky for you that has to do with profound change, truth, transformation, and regeneration. And it has to do with your understanding of power, how you understand it, how you wield it, how you embody it is going to start to become incredibly important to you. You add to this part of the sky has to do with truly being vulnerable to yourself and to others as well. And it has to do with wealth and your ability to harness it. Well, you are going to have that Jupiter out of the gate in late June, meeting the sun, but then speaking in conversations of tension with Neptune and with Saturn. This is a difficult configuration, but it represents a moment that will come and go rather quickly. And it's a moment that's necessary because it's an honest evaluation of where you are in all these areas and how you feel about it. What is power to you? How are you going to harness it, to claim it, to embody it, to own it, to magnify it for yourself? What is wealth for you? How secure do you feel in your definition of wealth or not? You're about to get honest with yourself with that as well, even if it's hard. Now, the great thing is with energies like this, there's enough frustration to promote action, which means that you're not going to be lazy. You're not going to feel like, oh, woe is me. That's not a Sag anyways. But it's going to be a time when you are deciding something about what wealth is to you, what power is to you, what needs to change, what not, what you're moving towards. And you're making, in some cases, sweeping changes at this time. It's working through frustration that you're able to make tremendous gains, feeling that much stronger, more secure, more powerful through the action. It's what you earn in the process. Capricorn, one of the most important aspects of 2025 for you, it's going to be multifold. Now, on the one hand, it's the Mars retrograde season. It is going to be from early January right to the middle of April that the Mars retrograde season taking place in your opposite sign is ultimately going to be one that is speaking to other power players in harmony. This is very encouraging. However, it is this aspect that is also going to involve moments that are more challenging for you. As in January in particular, we're going to have the Sun and Mercury both standing across that Mars. That represents a real moment of tension, maybe even conflict in a one-on-one alliance. It could be a business partnership. It might be a romantic alliance, but there's a need to confront a situation, even if it's hard. Now, it could have to do with relationship patterns or partnership patterns on your part that you're looking at differently. The opposition itself makes it feel as if your understanding of your power is outside of you in some way, that you want to grasp it, you want to hold it, but it isn't necessarily as clear as you would like or as easy to grasp as you may like. But the thing is, Mars will be making incredibly beautiful alignments, including it's going to station, direct, in February and even into March in supreme harmony with your ruling planet Saturn. I love this energy for you. It does suggest that you are going to start to feel that much more strong within. Regardless of what might be happening with another person, you are going to find a way to sail through this time, to say what you need to say, to communicate as it is that feels right for you to do in a way that cultivates a healthy self-respect. And that really is the point. That is the great gift of this Mars retrograde season for you now. Now, speaking of your ruling planet, it is going to be your ruling planet that's going to change signs, if only for a little bit in the middle of the year, dipping into the foundation of your chart, along with Neptune as well. This is tricky. I do want to be straightforward with you because it is here that you're going to find the placement of your ruling planet ends up being in a space of tension with you. And that means there's something you might feel deep within that you want to adjust, you want to change. You are reconfiguring the ground on which you stand. You might even be thinking about what foundations you want to lay, that you want to make strong, what your priorities are, what matter to you there on a level of the foundations of your life, and what could be different. Some Capricorns are going to feel inclined or inspired to build something else, to begin again even. But others are going to want to solidify what it is that they already have to ensure that it has the ability to last a really long time. Feeling safe, cultivating security is going to take on greater priority for you now. Aquarius, well, one of the most important things of 2025 for you has already taken place, and that is Pluto now comfortably in your sign. It was late last year that Pluto moved in. It won't be retrograding in and out anymore. It's in there for a nice long stay of 20 years. But 2025 brings with it a near exact trine. It doesn't get exact until next year, but with Uranus moving into fellow air sign Gemini, this is huge for you. It is ultimately going to be the trine of Pluto and Uranus that is likely to be one of the most important aspects of the 2020s. And you are at the heart of it. You are the one with the power in all of this. It is Uranus moving into a part of the sky for you that has to do with what you want in your heart of hearts in every area of life. That is a game changer for you. This is a little bit of a taste of Uranus also moving out of the foundation of your chart. Since 2018, you've been working on your roots and defining what home is for you and having a different understanding of the foundations of your life. Many Aquarians have transformed their relationships with their family of origin and come to understand their parents differently in some way, or their childhoods differently. Well, now the focus comes back to you. What do you really want? What's going to make you happy? What brings you joy? This is also a part of the chart that has to do with windfalls and winnings. And if anybody out there might go from rags to riches, it certainly is you. But you don't want to bet the farm. You want to stay conscious, especially as we get near that trine in the summer. Pay attention to what is taking place for you, especially in the months of July and August. That is when that trine gets mighty close, and it becomes a little bit of a glimpse of what your unique lottery ticket just might be. And it's not necessarily what you think. It is about you understanding with greater self-honesty, greater nuance, what your power actually is and where you may need to be strategic with it by cultivating that spirit of strategy and focusing, and also understanding that divine timing is something you want to tap into as well. Well, yeah, those windfalls become that much more likely for the Aquarians out there. You're about to learn that all of us are born with a lottery ticket of one kind or another, and you're about to make big gains in ways that you just didn't expect. The joy is about to return in a way that's positively elating. And big key moments of the Mars retrograde season in your opposite sign at the beginning of January and also in the last days of April. That's when we're going to have Mars opposite Pluto in your sign. It is a big moment of truth in the context of love, whether it's love from the past, what you had, where you are, what's taken place, what's worked, what hasn't, what you want, what you don't. all of that comes right to the surface, right in front of you. And it's like you have to deal with it. You have to address it. There's no sort of sweeping relationship stuff underneath the rug. You are getting in the trenches now, really looking at what love is going to be for you, what power you have and what you don't. Now, outside of relationships, this could also be business partnerships as well. But ultimately, this energy is showing you what's superficial and what's real and what really matters. And in the process, you just might discover that your answers aren't what you expected. They're actually something that are much more substantive than you realized before. And that puts you in alignment with truly authentic spiritual partnerships. Whether it's with people who are in your life right now as you begin, or whether it's new people, these are changed dynamics, the kinds you haven't known before, but end up being mutually empowering. Pisces, it is a massive year for you. On the one hand, we have a Venus retrograde season that kicks off in the new year from January right to the middle of May, with much of that season being spent with Venus in your sign. In fact, the most important alignments that Venus is going to make, the key characteristics, do involve Venus meeting Saturn repeatedly in your sign, meeting Neptune twice in your sign as well. The big moment to watch is April. That is when Venus slows down, stands still, goes direct while in your sign, while hand in hand with Saturn. This is huge. This is a big moment of truth, whether it's in love, money, joy, pleasure, whether it has to do with your understanding of anything in life that's lush, that's pleasurable to you. All of it is going to be seen very differently. The superficial just doesn't cut it with Saturn. What you are wanting is the long term, and especially where it is that you are one of the Pisceans who's enjoyed the fantasy. It's like it just isn't working the way that you want. But this isn't just about love. Remember that. This is a sweeping energy that is set to be a wake-up call, and it wants you to build something solid moving forward from here in just about every area of life. It gets you honest about where you are in terms of self-love, to make sure that it is an action, that you are demonstrating that to yourself, and not just a story that you're telling, but something you've proven to yourself again and again, consistently over a period of time. Now, add to this the fact that this year, Saturn and Neptune are going to dip out of your sign next year, leaving your sign for good. And your whole vibration is about to feel really different. Saturn leaving your sign helps you to feel that much lighter, that much more open. And Neptune leaving your sign is about to have you feel like you've just woken up, where you didn't even realize that you were in a dream, that you were asleep. In an instant, everything looks clearer. Everything looks different, and it might be a bit uncomfortable to be in such a stark place of awareness, of openness, of awakeness, and yet it's exactly what you need as part of building something that you know is real and is authentically yours. You're headed in a really exciting future, and it is something that builds healthy self-respect every step of the way. Thank you again for watching. It'll be a great year and a great week. Enjoy.